used different methods for their farming. One was barcea, which is basically planting along the floodplains of rivers. Acequia,
Acequia.
which is basically meaning making these little canals or channels between the rows of plants in order to irrigate them. Conucos. We hear this word in the Dominican Republic. So un conuco is un huerto or a personal garden. Some of the yucayeques or the towns had a larger one nearby. They also used terraces. And this, I can imagine, was absolutely beautiful por la Cordillera Central. Eso tenía que verse espectacular. One of the last methods known was slash and burn. So as you can see, they would burn the vegetation that was present, and the actual burning would release nutrients from the plants that were present, and this would then replenish the soil. I forgot to mention this last method. It's called Cajuil. However, I couldn't really find any images, so I'm just using these. It's basically farming inside of hollows of rocks. So it's like stone pots, and they would use the hollows of rocks or the hollows, even in soil, an indent in the soil, they would plant in there as well. So they actually had such a huge variety of fruits and vegetables. And as many indigenous people of the time, they believed that the gods had helped them produce this food. So the Taino gods were named semis. And the semis, it's a little complicated to explain exactly how they saw them. However, I'm just going to note in this part, talking about agriculture, that they would bury their semis or their gods in the fields in order to produce the best harvest. They would also take part of their produce and take it to the semi. And the semi would be housed in the cane, which was the cacique's home. And you knew it was the cane because the canes had these two front pillars that you see here. So they were different from the other bohíos. And it was here that they would bring in the produce, because usually they had another semi, another god inside of the cacique's home who they presented the produce to. Las Casas didn't really like this. Obviously, he saw it as idolatry. However, he did say that he thought it was silly because the food would go to waste and rot. So even though he supported the indigenous people, he did have his opinion about them.